Hello everyone, my name is Sabby, and I am traveling with my child, Sarah Effexor. Join us as we travel on a cross-country journey through Canada and the US. Please join us as we try not to freeze at Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. After I got towed at Elk Island National Park, I was finally able to get on the road to go to Saskatoon. It was now past 4 p.m. and I have over 6 hours of driving ahead of me. I was getting really nervous because I was low on propane and I failed to get any when leaving Edmonton because it wouldn't fill up properly, which really sucked. I also had an alert on my phone about the temperature reaching extremely cold temperatures in Saskatchewan, so I needed to have heat for my van. I headed out on the road and my Google Maps redirected me to a different route. But it would be 45 minutes faster if I got off the road I was on, which was the 16 Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway, and instead took a road parallel to it, which is the Highway 40. Since I was already running behind on time, I went with Google Maps, which I shouldn't have done. Highway 40 was not a bad road, but there are very little towns to stop at during the drive. It was a 2-lane highway, and there were very few people out during that time. As I was driving, I was trying my best to find propane. I stopped at 4 very tiny gas stations, and they were all unable to give me propane because they did not have someone available to operate it, or because there was no RV attachment for the propane tank. I kept on driving, and before the sun finally set, I found a gas station with the proper propane attachment in a small town called Wainwright, Alberta. It was a full-service gas station with only one attendant on duty, and the temperature outside was already negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. There were quite a few people in line getting gas or other items before the temperature got too low, so I waited for about 30 minutes inside before she could help me. I was hoping I could finally get propane this time because this morning I failed to get propane because the tank would not fill properly. This was my last attempt in my mind because I knew it was going to get too cold to get propane for the next few days. The attendant was really nice, but realized she had never pumped this type of tank before. I was trying to help guide her since I've seen people filling it a few times now already, and while I'm not a professional in any sense, I tried my best to guide her. She did call her manager as well, but she was struggling to get it to work. She was talking to her manager and let me know she would be here in 5 minutes. I felt so bad because I didn't want her manager to come all the way down here, but this was also my last opportunity for propane, so I waited. Her manager came and she was so sweet. She came and got it set up and turned the pump on, but a similar issue from the morning occurred. The propane was pumping, but the tank was not getting filled, and the propane was spewing out the sides of the tank. It was so bad that her glove that she was wearing was freezing. We guessed that either the propane I had inside froze already and was blocking any more from coming in, or there was another blockage from the snow or debris. The manager said she couldn't fill my tank since nothing was going in, and said she wouldn't charge me for anything. I was just so thankful for her taking the time to try to help me and not charging me. So I went on my way and got some food nearby before I left. I realized I was not going to be able to stay in my van while the temperature was this cold because my tank was probably frozen. It was planned to be at the lowest 52 degrees Fahrenheit due to wind chill at night, and that is just not livable with no heat. I was already skeptical of staying in the van, even if I did have propane, but having no heat confirmed I was going to go get a hotel for the next few days. I started booking a place to stay in Saskatoon at Motel 6, which was a decent price. However, it would take another 4 hours of driving and I would not get there till past 11 p.m. I had over half a tank of gas left, so I got on the road and headed out. My mom called and she was very concerned about the weather I'd be facing for the next couple of days. She was happy I was going to get a hotel for the next couple of days, but she did not like that I was driving in the dark in such cold weather. She started going on and on about how I could die because it was so cold. My gas lines could freeze. I could be trapped in the middle of nowhere. There's so few towns on this road that would take hours to get rescued, and we would be dead by then because we didn't have propane. She also hated the fact I was getting low on gas. She didn't mean to freak me out, I'm sure. But for the first time in a while, I started to get a lot of anxiety while driving. She really stressed me out, not because of the freezing to death situation, but because I was starting to get low on gas. I should have gotten gas when I was trying to fill my propane tank, but I didn't. I had already bothered them enough by having the manager come out that I didn't also want to get gas there too. And then I would have to wait again because there was a line. All the gas stations I've passed since then have been closed, and even a self-serve truck gas station I went to was not working. When I was pumping gas at the self-serve, I had all my layers on, but it was so cold. It was so cold. The ring I was wearing felt like it was freeze burning my skin. It hurt keeping it on. I could only stay outside for maybe 10 minutes trying to figure out this darn station before I gave up. The next city I could fill up at this point was North Battleford, and I only barely had enough gas to get there based on my Google Maps estimations. I started to get a panic attack while driving, to the point I just found an excuse to hang up on my mom because she was not helping me at the time. Luckily, I trained my kitten to help me in these situations, and she was rubbing against me to kind of soothe me while I drove, but I still had 45 minutes of driving. It was a very long 45 minutes of fighting against my panic attack. I never mentioned why I decided to go on this drive across the US and Canada. It's because for the previous 3 years, I was unable to drive a car without having a panic attack. I used to drive to work before COVID, but during COVID, I moved back home because they said we would be fully remote. Of course, a year later, they changed their mind and wanted me to drive into the office, which was now more than 3 hours away, one way. I always hated driving because I would just get so mad all the time. And I don't like feeling that way. It's almost like you just get this blind, uncontrollable rage where you just see red. And I hate feeling that way. Bumper to bumper traffic was so common, and it was just awful to spend 1 hour just to get 10 miles. It was ridiculous. When I had to drive more than 6 hours every 2 weeks, it ended up getting a lot worse. I was having a panic attack each time I drove. It was so bad, I was having to add extra time to my drive to account for the time that I would have to pull over and take a break to avoid getting a full-blown panic attack. I would stop over at my friend's place after work because she was halfway between my work and home. But even then, I would get a panic attack somewhere during the drive. I ended up coming up with excuses for why I had to postpone driving into the office because it just felt so unsafe for me and everyone else on the road. I ended up on disability for many reasons. Maybe I'll tell you guys the whole story someday. But eventually I quit my job because I couldn't do it anymore. I realized it was getting really bad when I got panic attacks during very short drives, like just going to the store, which was just down the street. I completely stopped driving, and at some point, I had panic attacks even when somebody else was driving. The only thing that really helped was when I had a pet in the car with me so that I could give them rubs and distract myself. I kept working on it with my therapist and then was also taking some medication that sort of helped. And then somehow I ended up getting a kitten. She was supposed to be my mom's cat, but she chose me because she loves me so much. And she helped me heal in so many ways. I was finally able to drive again when she was with me. I trained her from an early age to do so many tricks and also to comfort me during panic attacks or depressions. I did a small road trip before this one to test it out, and it was a great success with no panic attacks. I felt comfortable enough following through with the RV trip, and this was kind of my chance to take my life back. Do one final road trip to prove to myself that I made progress. And then when I get home, I was going to give my car to my brother and travel in a way where I would never have to drive again. That moment was really hard for me because it was the first time I've had a panic attack while driving since the start of this trip. And it really hit my self-confidence and made me doubt my ability to travel not only by myself, but am I really ready to drive again? Has all this progress that I thought I made not been real? Even getting towed twice didn't hit me as hard as it was at this moment. And once your mind starts running down that dark path, it's really hard to pull yourself out of it. When I can't pull myself out of that thought process, it's when my panic attacks get really out of control. I had to fight that thought process for 45 minutes while I struggled to breathe. I was dealing with a pounding heartbeat. My hands were tingling. I even turned the AC up in my car because the cold air in my face made me feel like I could breathe slightly better. It ended up feeling like forever, but I finally made it to the gas station at North Battleford. Google Maps said it may not be open, but luckily I was able to still pump gas. That was like a major stress release. It was freezing outside, and of course, I forgot to take my ring off, and it was freeze burning my finger under the glove, but I was able to fill my tank, and I took a little break in my car. I started working on my breathing to make sure I was calming down. I even grabbed a quick snack and drank some water to kind of refreshen myself. It wasn't a full-blown panic attack, but it was enough where I shouldn't have been driving. And the only reason I kept driving was because I needed gas and the temperature was too low to stop. I just hated the fact that I could not just pull over and take a break because I wasn't doing well. Still, I wasn't really in a place where I could stop. I still needed to get to Saskatoon to get to the hotel that I booked. And, it was only an hour away, so I got back on the road and the last hour went by really quick, thankfully. I got to my hotel, checked in, and removed everything from my car. I did not want to freeze because I wasn't going to be in there for a couple of days. I ate a snack really quick and finally got to end my day. Sweetness. Oh, hi. Oh, you're so beautiful. Staying in a hotel tonight. The next day, I decided to just stay in the room. After the chaos that was yesterday, I knew my mind and my body needed a really good rest. So I did just that. I took a really nice long shower, had some food delivered, and just vegetated with my child for the day. We had the hotel heater on full blast, and I brought my electric blanket in the hotel with us, so we were nice and toasty. My child did escape from the room when I went down to go pick up the food. I opened the door, and she just sprinted out the door and ran right underneath the vending machine. I had to chase her, and I had to drag her out underneath the vending machine, and she was literally clawing the ground as I tried to get her. She's such a naughty girl. The next day, we went to check out, so I started loading everything back in the car and getting the car warmed up before I brought my sweet girl out. When I tell you everything was frozen, everything was frozen. I had gallon waters in the van and they froze. Her cat food froze. My shampoo and conditioners froze. The milk in the fridge was frozen. Even my contact solution froze. Anything that could freeze was completely frozen. And it really did not thaw until like 3 days later. It was that cold. So the first thing I needed to do was I needed propane. I went out on my journey and I finally found some propane. They were able to fill it up, which meant whatever was blocking it was unblocked. And I was so excited we could finally stay in the RV again. I did not want to have to buy another hotel room unless I had to. Still, I hadn't seen any part of Saskatoon really, so I wanted to see the two things that I wanted to see on my list. I really wanted to go to Wanuskewin. I am Native American of the Tohono O'odham tribe, formerly known as Papago. My great-great-grandmother used to live on the reservation in Arizona before she ended up relocating to California. She pretty much abandoned her culture and ties to her tribe for her own safety. This impacted our family in a way where our family really lost all our traditions and history. It wasn't until the current generation started to revitalize some of the lost culture, but being far away from our tribe in Arizona, it made it difficult. So to see such a place like Wanuskewin, it really just warms my heart because of their efforts to honor Indigenous heritage and just keeping the history alive. My aunt, who passed away a few years ago, was a member of our family always trying to keep our Native American roots intact. She would have been so happy to have seen this beautiful place. When I got to the Heritage Museum, I saw a herd of bison on my right coming in, which was really cool to see. I parked and turned the heater on for my kitten while she was in the car, and I entered the Heritage Museum, where they had a whole event going on. The parking was free for the event, and they had food available to eat. They had workshops where they would show people how to skin an animal, educating them on the local vegetation. They had storytelling, a photo booth. It was just really amazing to see everything that they had to offer. The museum also had an art exhibition and artists in residence who would create their work on the property before they ended up displaying it later on. My aunt was an artist herself and taught all of the grandchildren many different forms of art. It was just nice to see the Heritage Museum funding Indigenous people's artwork. She would have really loved to see it and be a part of it. One of the artists, Jamie Blackmore-Sett, brought forward the issue of MMIW, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. You may have seen the symbol of a red hand covering the mouth. Murder is the third leading cause of death for Native women. Native women also make up a significant portion of people murdered or missing, which is significant because they only make up 2% of the U.S. population. It was good to see the issue brought to light in the museum because it's such an important issue Native women face in Canada and the U.S. The museum also housed Native artifacts and went through a timeline of history of the land that we were on. The kind women at the visitor center also let me know about the powwows that they hold at the amphitheater right outside. I just really enjoyed my time at Wanuskewin. It really makes one feel connected. I continued my drive south, and before I left Saskatoon, there was one more place I wanted to go. I went to the Beaver Creek Conservation Area. Again, I kept my kitten in the car because it was so cold with the heater on. Not very many trails were open due to the snow, but they had a visitor center with information about the animals and the plants in the area. They even had an area outside where you could feed the chickadees. That was a very fun experience, feeding them. They were just so sociable that they would fly right into your hand and eat the seeds. The whole area was just gorgeous, and it would have been an amazing experience to see it during the summertime. It was a nice end to my time in Saskatoon. There was some hardship in the beginning getting there, but the city itself, it just had a lot to offer. I want to thank you all for watching this video. My child and I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please show your support by liking or commenting on this video. If you want to continue to join us on our RV winter adventure, please subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, as I will be uploading every Wednesday and Friday.